Yeah, it looks like everything is working. Fantastic. Kia ora, everyone. Welcome to another Q&A here at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatchis. I am your host. I'm really excited today that I have Spencer Willis with us from Callaghan Innovation. Spencer's going to tell us all about what he's here to do, but we're really here to talk you through the R&D journey and how Callaghan can help you with grants for your R&D journey. We'll talk about what R&D is for those of you who feel like, well, I don't understand. We're going to talk you through all of that. Any questions you may have, pop them into the Q&A. I'm going to field them for you. If you're in socials, pop them into the comments. And let's just start a conversation here with Spencer. He's here to answer all of your questions, and I'm here to help you get the answers that you need. So welcome, Spencer. Thanks for coming.
Absolute pleasure.
I
Absolute
love having
pleasure.
you here. We were having a nice chat before, and we're really excited about sharing this with our Digital Boost community. So I will let you take it away, but I'm also going to interrupt because that's me and that's what I do.
Okie dokie. Kia ora tātou, ko rangatoto te moanga, ko Thames te awa, no tamaki makora o ho, ko Willis toko whanau, ko Spencer toko noa. I'm Spencer Willis. I'm the GM of Fund and Engagement here at Callaghan Innovation. As you can tell by the accent, I'm originally from over the UK, but I've been here for now 26 years. So I'm a full All Blacks fan. Although I'm still kind of watching the Euro Championships and supporting England for my sins in that area. What I'd like to go through with you guys for the next kind of 20 25 minutes is, as Georgia explained, talking a little bit about our funding, what we've got, and how we look at the world when it comes to funding and R&D. But what can make this fun is interrupt me, throw the questions out. Even you guys on socials, Georgia will be watching those, so please feel free to kind of throw some stuff in, and let's see if we can kind of have a little bit more fun with the interactivity, because sometimes the value's in the questions you ask rather than my predetermined what I think is important. And the way that we work in the funding here at Callaghan Innovation is we kind of have a design principle called fail fast, succeed quickly. And that really come from a customer insight when I joined here about 6 years ago, where customers were telling me about their funding journey, not only just with us, but within government. Some of them put it more eloquently, some of them put it more aggressively, but ultimately they said, tell me to go away after 3 questions, not 3 months. And at the heart of that is, you know what good looks like. You know what it takes for a company to get funding. Why drag this out? If it ain't going to work, let's know. And it really changed the way we looked at funding. And we realized that, yes, funding's what we do. But ultimately, what we've also need to be respectful of, and the core product is actually time. Funding makes you go quicker in your innovation journey. But if we haven't got the funding for you, then we need to get out of the way. We need to say, no, this isn't going to go work. Go over here, go find it elsewhere, because we are not a one-stop shop for everything. But then once you are in and we can help you, let's make that process as quick as possible. And the other thing is we like to do is trying to add value at every step. So if you're gonna, if it's not going to work out, you're going to get declined in an application for whatever reason, let's give you the kind of no but or yes if response. So that way you walk out smarter, and the process is something that gives you value as well as hopefully gives you that funding that you need. But
I am going
Callahan,
to interrupt. I am going to
wow,
interrupt.
already, Georgia, this is awesome. Go for it.
I just want to say that is a really good point, and I want to. There are so many times that you fill out an application for something, especially for funding, and you don't know why you've been turned down, and then you're left in the wind trying to figure it out. So, thank you for speaking to that, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's a really good point that you are adding value in every step of the way. Continue. I will be silent now.
No, you won't. No, make promises you can't make. Go for it.
I won't
But
be
it it
silent.
it, it kind of it's really useful. It's a really weird kind of thing that we have, is that sometimes when we get emails from customers who've received rejection from us in a kind of contestable fund, for example, but we make sure that there's a good kind of clarity around why, they come back and say thank you. And
Mhm.
it's a really weird moment to kind of get, job satisfaction that you decline someone and they appreciate it, because next time they come back stronger, or they realize that they're not ready, or they know as a result that they need to go and get funding over here or do some other work to help them along their journey. So it's kind of good, right? We don't just want to be people holding money. We want to be help people about, you know, helping people, customers, and businesses in New Zealand and innovators actually go faster. And this is why at Callaghan, we're not just a funding shop. We kind of got 5 key products. We've got that upskill piece, because you can give all the money in the world to the greatest idea, but if the people behind it don't have those skills to actually take it forward, then they're gonna basically struggle. And the greatest innovators, like the greatest investors, the one with hindsight. So if we can kind of use the skills that we understand what success looks like, and start to train people and put them in touch with people who can train them, and upskill their team, then they don't necessarily have to make the same mistakes over and over again. You're still going to make mistakes; it's part of the gig, but hopefully we can kind of minimize that. Then there's the connect piece there. I can't stress enough: go to the website and check out the connect product suite we've got there, because from accelerators and incubators to the health tech accelerator, for example, the food bowl. There's a whole raft of environments that we can basically help connect you with, because innovation isn't done in a bubble. It is not done in a lab. Even the most deep tech, top secret stuff, its success relies on basically connecting with others to learn and basically leverage. So connecting is key. Then there's Solve. Solve is I love our Solve product, because ultimately what our Solve product is 200 scientists and engineers and technicians. It's an old phrase, about the best place to be is to be the stupidest person in the room. I am constantly the stupidest person in the room, because I'm surrounded by the most insanely bright people in this country, and it's great. I parked my inferiority complex, and I now learn from them, and I'm part of a great pub quiz team. But realistically, these people are here, the scientists, our engineers, and our technicians. They are world class. So it's a true pleasure to be part of an environment where I get to stand alongside those. And then equally, there's also our grow product, which is about the commercialization part, getting businesses to get refocused in terms of what's important, prioritizing, and giving them the tools to actually go, as the name suggests, grow quicker. But I'm here to sell my department, which is funding. And who would have thought that you have to sell the idea of giving away money, but ultimately you do, because it comes wrapped in a bundle of criteria, and that criteria is called a ministerial intent. The government give us a legal document that says this appropriation, this bucket of money, needs to go to these types of people who are doing this type of work, and they need to meet this type of criteria. And it's my job to make sense of that, and to wrap it up in that fail fast, succeed quickly bow. So I'm going to go through a few of those funding products that we've got, and hopefully you'll be able to ask me questions and to kind of convey your story to work out whether these are right for you. We've got really kind of 4 key funding areas. And if you look at it from an R&D point of view and a commercialization point of view on this spectrum, when I look at the axis around being groundbreaking and commercially viable, a lot of R&D isn't necessarily commercially viable. It's solving a problem for sure, but the commercial aspect of it isn't necessarily there. So a lot of academic research, for example, can live in that. Not all of it, but some of it can live in there. So we look at things on that kind of commercial viable spectrum. And on that bottom axis here, we talk about where you are on your R&D journey. On the left, are you just starting to develop your R&D program? I.e., are you trying to solve a technical problem that a competent professional could not necessarily solve? I.e., there is trial and error right now in you being able to solve this technical problem that nobody has actually tried to solve before. And that's what we mean by R&D. Now, that can be a business model, that can be a process, that can be a thing. It's not all about white coats and microscopes. It's a broad spectrum of stuff. So are you starting that journey at the embryonic stages of it? Or are you at the other end of the spectrum where that R&D program is way underway? We've built our prototype. We're now looking at the development of that MVP, and we're looking at going to market. We've got one eye on the going to marketplace. And the thing is, even on that spectrum, if you're in the digital space, that's a short spectrum, right? You're talking kind of potentially 6 to 12 months from, that line of code and, and that whiteboard session to your first line of code to actually getting that prototype out there. Or if you're in clean tech or some other real deep tech astronautics type of space, that could be a 3 year, 5, 10 year type of spectrum. So it's very hard to overly generalize. So please forgive me that I'm attempting to do that. And you might go, hey, hold on a second, what about? So hit me with the one abouts. The one abouts is where the fun and the energy sits.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, can you give me some examples of what in different industries could be considered R&D? Or is that a too big a question?
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think one of the things, and I'm gonna give myself a cheat here. The other here, Trailblazer Grant, that product there in the top right hand corner, is a contestable product. But what we do with that is we actually publish the people who the award, the recipients of that, and we put their case studies up on the website. And really we do that so people can kind of go and say, hey, is that me? And those case studies are written in a wonderful way. We've got a fantastic marketing and communication department here. I'm very lucky to work alongside some people, Michael Seymour, namely at the moment, who basically is able to take something that is highly complex and write it in a way that basically is really easy to digest and understand. So don't think you're going to be reading a white paper. You're going to be reading something that is very easy, and it allows you to go, hey, yeah, that sounds like me, or I'm kind of a bit earlier than that, or I'm not going into that level of depth. So read the Trailblazer recipient, their case studies, because that really does explain, in my opinion, where R&D really sits at that kind of top end of the market there. But when you're looking at new to R&D, I think the challenge is when you're going to go, where is the technical challenge here, and where is the newness, or what we call it, the novelty factor. So with these grant funding products, the new to R&D is that piece where when we have a spectrum of the commercials, we're not going to be looking too much about the commercial viability. We just want to see you start off your R&D program. We're not interested too much in whether it's going to be successful, because this is about getting going. Right. This is about taking that idea and actually putting a bit of an R&D structure around your place. So you've actually got an R&D, someone who's dedicated to doing R&D. That's their job. And you're starting to build some processes around how you're going to take that idea out of the idea and actually into a prototype potentially. So, that's that kind of low start right now. That's on a 40-60 co-funding place. We'll fund up to $1 million projects. But here also what we're trying to do is a little bit of kind of teach a person to fish rather than give them a fish. So here we'll fund some of that product building, but we also want to fund some of the brain, right? So we have a system in place which basically says you got to spend some of this money on growing your capability. Now that funding is always on, so you can go and apply for that right now. We do fortnightly assessment panels on this one to kind of get that, as I say, succeed quickly piece. And the idea there is that that's kind of an on-ramp to you doing the RDTI, which is that from a tax point of view, you basically get that tax rebate or the tax credits for keep on doing it, because the government wants people to keep on doing R&D, not just these one-off projects, build something, sell it off to Google, and then go and basically retire up in Matacana and have some fun up there. Okay, it's actually the government wants you to keep on doing R&D. So that's how kind of my lens when I look at what you're doing.
We've got a quick question here that
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you about, our Matacana, lifestyle up here. Yes, everyone, I live in Matacana.
It was a personal pop. There you go.
It was. Can the grant include developers that are subcontractors, or would we have to hire someone to include in the grant funding?
No, that's an awesome question. This is the level of detail I want you guys to feel comfortable going into. When it comes to a grant fund like News R&D, basically we want to see a bit of a mix of external labor costs and internal. So we don't want you to basically completely outsource all your R&D activity, because we want to be funding people who are growing R&D programs in New Zealand. However, we also acknowledge that you're going to need to go out and outsource that and bring in contractors to do stuff, especially when you're at that new stage there. there. So absolutely, yes, bringing in people's all a part of this story.
And then are the majority of the grants intended for on-selling, or can it be for in-house problem solving?
Generally, you're looking at the in-house kind of problem. If we're just looking to, sorry, I just pause for a second myself there. If you're looking to develop solve an in-house problem, and it's only ever going to stay in you're solving your own thing, then you might have some problems in getting approved for a grant like this, because ultimately there does need to be some degree of commercial viability to this. So the process that you're solving, it can't just be for your business to make your business go a little bit faster. There needs to be something that's going on there. But the devil's very much in the detail on that one. So with that type of question, I'd love you to go to our website, give us an inquiry, and we can put you in contact with one of our fund and engagement people, so we can kind of unpick that a little bit and find out what you're trying to solve there. It sounds an interesting one.
Okay, we've got some more questions coming in, and I don't want to interrupt your flow, but I do want to see if we can answer
Sure,
some of
let's
the,
go for it.
yeah. Can you access the R&D if you are a venture? Do you need to be a fully registered business?
Yes, you do. You need that NZBN number. So you need to basically set up a company, because we need to, the contract that we have with you when you get funding is with the business entity.
And is any funding by Callaghan, when approved, of course, co-funding or full funding?
That's an awesome, really important question. The whole gig is co-funding.
Great.
Okay, so that's really important. And it's to what degree? As you can see on these kind of three that I've got up here at the moment, the new to R&D is 40/60. So we put in 40 cents in the dollar to your 60. With the other here, Trailblazer grant, it's 30/70. We put in 30 cents, you put in 70 cents in a dollar. And the other here, evidence grant, which we'll get to, is a 50/50 co-funding rate on there. The experience, the student grants, those ones down there in the grey, the R&D career and experience grants, they're a little different. They're about bringing students in to your space where you have an R&D program, which is why it kind of spans that section there, or basically you need to have a program in development through to all the way under there, because really this product is about students. This is about funding the next generation of R&D practitioners and putting them in spaces where there's R&D going on so they can learn. So the focus there is the student, but the benefit actually sits with both of the business and the student my opinion, in equal measure. We have a plethora of case studies where the business has gone, this student solved the problem. And for the student, it was great because they were in an environment where they could do that, and that's their career starting to launch. That's they've got something to put on their CV, and indeed, they get jobs, and that's the whole point of these, as well as for people to kind of go, yeah, this is great. Let's get together and employ them. I just want to touch on the other here, Trailblazer grant, to kind of wrap this up a little bit, and we will go into a little bit more depth. But the Trailblazer grant, as this name would suggest, is about those at the top end of groundbreaking and being commercially viable. This is something that's going to change the world. And these are looking at those who've got their R&D pretty much underway. So we're not going to fund any of your R&D in this. It's about that kind of trough between the R&D finishing and going to market, because that is, I believe, the consultants call that the trough of disillusionment. That's the hard part, right? So this grant here is up to $4 million, as I say, on a 30/70 piece, and it's contestable. In the last round, we have 2 rounds a year. The last round, we're just coming to the end of this now. We had 86 applicants, and only 11 are going to go through to the final. So this is big stuff, and this is really intense. But again, reading the winners, or rather the recipients of the last round, will help you understand that. And I'll talk a little bit about the evidence grant as we go through. Before I move on, is there any questions out there, Georgia?
Yeah, the questions are pouring in. I do have one question. Oh, I see. Okay, Michael is helping you, Robin. He's going to type an answer for you. I was going to ask that one at the end. Would we be able to join up with other similar businesses that have the same issues to solve this together, to share with the industry for a solution?
Yeah, I would. I'd love to see more of this. I really would, because ultimately, reality, I should say, is you're going to have businesses who kind of go, "Yeah, me too," right? But we can only fund one entity. Okay, we're not going to necessarily. So, as an entity, what you're doing, we do see it happen, but very, very rarely is where two or three businesses get together and say, "Hey, we need to solve this," and they create a new business, and that new business is about solving that problem for the benefit of multiple places. But it's so rare. It's so rare. And I can't help the romantic in me would love to think surely this should be so should be done more, more and more. But ultimately, I will stick by that. You have to have an entity that we will be funding.
Great. Would the grant slash funding interfere with any accreditation ISO obligations?
No, it shouldn't. And actually, this is a great segue. So thank you. That question could not be more perfectly timed right now. Thank you very much. In terms of talking about the new to R&D grant, because the new to R&D grant, as I said, is about co-funding that first commercial R&D project. It's about making your team get smarter around capabilities, and it's up for projects up for $1 million, and we're in it for 40%. But for those of you who love the detail, and I don't expect anyone to read this because there's a lot going on here, this is available on our website too. But what it does is it just kind of touches on a few things here that around that building skills and capability point is we understand things like regulations as part of building skills and capability. So actually things such as ISO comes into this as well, in which we will actually co-fund your journey into getting that type of accreditation or things that you need to get to proceed on your R&D journey. So if you're looking at that, please dive into the new to R&D grant because it touches on this and does acknowledge that as well, including such things as IP as well. We really do need to step up our IP game here in New Zealand around that. So this grant again says, hey, you've got that idea, you're about to start your R&D journey. But while you're at it, let's look at some of these things as well. Project management, customer feedback, accreditation, the IP stuff there as well. So this new to R&D grant is perfect for that space there. And I know Georgia said that we wanted to touch on what is R&D, and just there on the right hand side, this is our kind of technical, simple version of what we mean by R&D. Okay, it's a little bit more than, as it says there, of just kind of giving something a go and seeing if it actually works. And it's certainly not new product development. If you're kind of, it's not about building a three-wheel car. It's more than that. Yeah, and really what you've got is three boxes that you need to tick. Does what you're doing seek to resolve that scientific or technical uncertainty? And as I say, it's about a competent professional being able to answer the question. Yeah. So it's not a resource problem, it's actually a technical problem. Does your activity seek to create new knowledge, or is it a new improved process, service, or good? So it can't already exist. In the new to R&D piece, we're a little bit friendly with that. So, for example, with the Trailblazer, we're looking globally. With new to R&D, we can look a little bit more in New Zealand, i.e., is this, we've got people in, Israel or Korea or China or in America, they're kind of trying to solve this problem and they're a bit far ahead. But in our end of the world, no one's had a go at this and we're not figuring it out. We will look at that in this grant. And the third one there is, does your activity follow a systematic approach? Okay, so R&D needs to have a plan and how you're going to do it. So that's what we mean by R&D, and this is why I love this new to R&D grant. For many of you on the call who are kind of going, I think I've got something, I want to give it a go. This is the one to go for. It really is, and it's on right now. You can come and speak to our funding engagement people and get started on that. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got the Trailblazer grant, as I've said there, that's co-funding to basically get that groundbreaking global innovative product out to market. It's really is about trailblazing. And there we also have a minimum as well. And the grants are basically between 100,000 and up to $4 million in terms of what we actually award, and that's 30% of project costs. Again, here I just want to kind of touch on the criteria, because I think this is important for this one. Because to do this grant, it's hard work. Yeah, this is one you need to put a little bit of work into on this one, because you're not just competing against criteria, you're competing against everybody else who applies for it. So it changes the dynamic a little bit. So here you kind of have to say yes to the following four questions, but you have to say yes in a real kind of yeah. All right. So is this product or service not yet for sale or available to customers? Okay. So we're not going to fund stuff that's in market that needs a boost. It's about getting new products to market. Is it truly new? And here we are looking at world leading groundbreaking standard. Okay, so it's not that we made it cheaper or quicker or better. It actually is this really new. The third thing is it the customers want? I.e., is it a business? Is it viable? Is it going to have impact? Is it something that's actually going to change the world because people are going to use it? And the last one, and this is the tough one, is it something that helps other innovators in New Zealand create new and unique products? This is what we call the kind of benefits to the ecosystem piece. And that says that if you are groundbreaking, you're doing something unique, then other things will spin out of this. If you look at the likes of Rocket Lab, for example, or some of those other early stage space businesses here in New Zealand, they spawned an entire industry here because they were collaborative, they shared, they grew something new, and that's what happens with all types of innovation, genuine groundbreaking innovation. It has this huge knock-on effect, and there's many cases and examples that we can use. So they're the four kind of areas for the Trailblazer grant. And I know I've said it a couple of times, but checking out the case studies of the past recipients really gives you a level of where you're at. I remember one guy, for you football fans, you'll probably understand the analogy. He was very mad at me because we turned around and the first round he didn't qualify for it, because he thought he could say yes to these questions. And then when the awardees went up on the website, I got a phone call, and it was a lovely phone call. He just went, "Hey, I just want to say sorry. You're absolutely right. These guys are Premier League level. I'm kind of Sunday League level." But it kind of helped him understand, the type of investment he was looking for, where he needed to go for it, and how much time he can spend on it. So it kind of helped him to go through that process, even though at the beginning it felt a bit kind of tough. But there you can see just on the right there as well, we have this product called the Evidence Grant. And what that is it acknowledges that this is tough and that you may kind of be able to say yes to these things, those criteria I mentioned, but actually you need to smash it out of the park and you haven't quite got the evidence right now or the data that you need or the advancement that you need. So we have an evidence grant that says, hey, we'll go 50-50 with you so you can actually go and write a better grant by going and getting evidence, speaking to customers, getting some real background that you can say yes to this and prove it and stand up against other people and kind of going, hey, we've built a bit, we've got some data, we've gone and spoken to experts, we've actually gone and spoken to customers, and we've actually even gone and spoken to other people who said that they want to help us with this because they can innovate as well. Here it is. So that evidence grant is a beautiful product, I think. It's 50-50, so your 25 grand, our 25 grand, and it really sets you up for success. But also, even if you kind of go, hey, it didn't work out, you still got that information that helps you move forward with your funding, with your innovation. Even if you go say, hey, maybe I'm not ready for the Trailblazer. So that's kind of what I just touched on there with the evidence grant. And here, just very quickly before I kind of go back into questions and spend the next kind of 20 minutes, 30 minutes focusing on your questions, because it's enough to listen to me talk, but you're the interesting people in the room. Is that the experience grant there is about the student grants I refer to. That's the summer internships for that tertiary level students. It's the relationship that you have as a business because you've got R&D infrastructure and they bring in that new thinking, and basically that's the funding, that third point there, that in terms of what is available. The career grant is a bit more at the mature end of that, so it's for 6-month internships for that PhD master's graduates that you can bring into your business there. So your R&D projects need to have that little bit more maturity around that, and as you see there, there's that 35 to cover the 6 months of those graduates' wages as well. Both of these grants are open as we speak right now. So I'm going to take a breath. George is going to ask me some questions or give me some tips. But ultimately, let's use the next 20, 30 minutes to have a quick chat to kind of see what do you need to know from us so you can fail fast with us and move on and find funding elsewhere, or potentially how you can kind of get on board and see if we can help.
Well, Spencer, I have to say that it's gangbusters in here. This Q&A is blowing up.
Awesome.
I love that you're all coming on board because it is hard to ask these questions about funding. So I am here to let's plow through these. All right. So, do FTE in kind could be used as part of the co-funding scheme? I don't get a salary, and that FTE is part of the co-funding.
Yeah, I appreciate this question, and it is a common one, and my answer is an unfortunate one, which is no. We need to basically match dollar for dollar, and past effort it doesn't count. And I know that sounds crap, but that is the way these grants are set up at a ministerial level. I have full empathy for the fact that you're probably swearing at me right now, but unfortunately, that is the reality of this.
Well, it's good to know criteria, right? We have to be really clear on that. So I think it's a great question. Let's see. The Autohia grant seems to be focused on marketing, go-to-market strategy alone. How does Callaghan support companies that require clinical research to reach its $20 billion market?
Yeah, that's very much, I would say, in our solve area, in that space there. So whether that's from a funding point of view, we may have a little hole in that. But I think I'd love to have a chat with you there because if you're basically spending money on R&D, that's where the RDTI comes in as a really strong product there. And I know there's some challenges you may perceive around the pre-revenue part, but there's been a lot of advancement in that product that may be worth having a conversation with. You've obviously got our technical people there from a solve point of view to help out, depending on how much money you have spent, maybe there is something around those student grants or that new to R&D grant. So I'd love to have a chat, but I also acknowledge that there's gaps in our funding, and this may not necessarily hit that sweet spot that you're after. But I think I'd like to explore that more with you.
Thank you. I'm saying thank you for them. As I'm building the MVP for my website and app, can you provide any specific advice or feedback on what Callaghan Innovation looks for in a promising MVP? Self-funded R&D is the other part of that.
Yeah, websites and apps are challenging because I think the hardest thing to prove on a website and app from a technical point of view is its novelty. That's where it gets kind of challenging because quite often that's a case of bringing together existing technology into a very tidy, unique customer value proposition. So that's kind of where that might kind of have a bit, and it's very hard then for others to innovate off of the back of that. So that's it. But I think the number one advice would be, so whether there is some technical nuance in what you're talking about. I think the key part there is the customer proposition, and a, why is it new, and B, where is that product market fit that you are proposing, and how that might scale. So it's two-fold, I suppose, is that the customer proposition and its scalability are the kind of the two key areas that you're going to have a conversation with. But again, it's very difficult from our perspective around just that generic website app stuff. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you've really got to kind of have that novelty conversation, the product market fit piece, and the scalability piece.
Great. Can you get more than one grant per project/solution?
Technically, yes. There is a kind of way that you start off with the new to R&D grant. You get that moving along, and then you've started to build an R&D kind of a space. Therefore, you can now start getting the student grants in. You've now solved that problem, and you'll now build, you're kind of coming into that prototype, going to market stage, and realize you've created something globally groundbreaking, and then the other here kind of kicks in. So that is a journey that you can make. Now, sometimes that journey doesn't work in reverse. So if you've got a student grant or an RA here, you've got some other funding, you can't get the new to R&D grant because hey, you've got R&D funding, you can't be new. So it kind of does travel in one direction rather than kind of around and around. But technically, yes, you can.
Great. All right. So the Trailblazer grant requirements are quite hard to meet for the majority of industries. Do you think the requirements will be broadened, or are there a lot of grant applicants that manage to meet the requirements?
Yeah, that's a damn good question. No, it is, and you know, these forums can be somewhat career defining because I can say the wrong thing, and next thing you know, I'm looking for a job. But ultimately, our funding doesn't always cover off everything. Okay, so we don't nail every part of it, and I think the Out of Here product it is hard. And when I look at those who make it, um, I'm glad it's the way it is, to be perfectly honest, because I think it does start to identify, those at the top of the pile who are going to make a global difference. Our kids are going to have a better world because of what these people are doing. It's that level. Um, and I think if you kind of broaden it, you can somewhat kind of potentially dilute some of that kind of, impact with the funding. However, that also means that there's gaps, as in that little chart that I had, there's big space in there that we do need to fill. And if we can't fill it, then other organizations need to fill it, whether they be government or private organizations need to fill it. And there is a huge amount of funding out there in different areas, and we're not that one-stop shop as much as I'd love to be. Wouldn't it be great? But unfortunately, no. So, yeah, out of here, I don't think we're going to broaden that criteria. I'd love to get some extra funding for those that are, where we do have gaps. But I'd also love to have a conversation with you and turn around and see if we can help you kind of go, hey, go over there. These guys have got something that's quite good as well.
See, that's good to know. That's good to know that you know where these other avenues are and we can send people there. It's brilliant. What kind of financial documentation would we need to provide once the grant payment is received? Do businesses need to provide proof of how the money was spent? Good question.
100%. 100%. Great question. Basically, the funding is you don't get a check, at the beginning and say good luck. It's not like the lotto piece. Basically, what you do is you are awarded a piece of funding, and then you go out and you spend your funding and you send us back that invoice, that proof of purchase, and then you get basically reimbursed. So we call it the claims cycle, and ultimately the claim needs to align with what you promised us you were going to do. There are mechanisms in place because we know innovation can be fluid and that we need to pivot. Sorry for bringing back the early 2000s with the word pivot, but ultimately there is that in there, and we do kind of have that in there where to ensure that we're realistic. However, we are playing with your taxpayer dollars. So it's as I say, it's not like a lotto funding space. It's taxpayer dollars. It's your money. So there is a responsibility we have to manage to ensure that there is integrity and that there is equity in the way that those funds are managed.
Great. Hi, Spencer. Did I spot in the recent government budget that the new to R&D allocation got a good boost?
Dare I say? I don't think we did. I don't think we got a big boost. Sometimes government funding can be a little bit interesting in the way that it's appropriated, but no, we didn't necessarily get a big boost, but we do. There's money on the table right now. So if your question is really, is there any left, and shall I go for it?
Go
Go
for
for
it.
it, please.
Go for it. I love this. If there are any, those are all the questions that were in the Q&A. If you have any other questions, pop them in. I do want to say right now, while we're waiting for you to ask questions, these have been amazing questions, by the way.
Yeah, really cool.
Our friend from Callaghan, Michael Seymour, is behind the scenes right now. You can't see him, but he's answering some questions for you, and he's popped some links into the chat. I know the chat is disabled on your side, so you can only ask me questions through the Q&A, but you should be able to see the chat and you should be able to see those links. If you cannot access the links, please let me know in the Q&A, and I will make sure that I get them to you either by posting them on our socials, or you can just go to callahaninnovation.gov.nz, and you can play around in there and go into the rabbit hole that is government funding. Why not?
It is, and I actually, if I can, I do want to have a little bit of a plug for Michael and his team because I know in the past, we've done a lot of insights around our website and our communication, and I know sometimes we've been left wanting in the way we've shown up, communicated, and I say we as in Callaghan, but I imagine a lot of government do. But I know at Callaghan, there's been a lot of work done in the last year to make our website useful, to make it so you don't need Google or ChatGPT to navigate it and work out what the hell we're talking about. It's done in a way that is customer centric. We've taken a massive step in doing so. So I'm pushing the website because it's actually a really clean, simple resource that's a lot quicker than listening to me talk. So I do encourage you to go and do that. The resources are there for you, and they're very easy to find and understand.
And that's really good to say because these websites around funding can be such a roadblock to anyone trying to apply for anything. So
Totally.
I think we all appreciate that it's become simpler. And thank you, Michael. Again, he's the little ghost in the machine. Love seeing you there, Michael, or not seeing you, sensing you.
He's the brains of the outfit.
Yeah. So we've got a couple more questions. What advice would you give to your former self about applying for a new to R&D grant? Hmm.
Think about the future and write about your future. Okay. So quite often when we're doing things, we get immersed in the now, right? And we get in the weeds. So basically, what I would recommend is pull yourself up, yeah, or tell the story to somebody else and get them to take notes while you're telling the story of what the next 12 to 2 years looks like. How far, what will this product look like? How far will the solution be? You know, who's employed there? What does this infrastructure look like in your company to actually be around in 2 years' time? Have you solved the problem? Have you kind of got it far enough to a prototype? Where is? Because ultimately, a grant application for an assessor needs to be able to have the confidence to turn around and say, this is worthy of taxpayers' dollars. Right. So paint that picture. And it's really hard when you're at the beginning because sometimes you're struggling to put food on the table. You're struggling to get the thing actually going. It's full of emotion because you might be quitting a fantastic job to go all in on this idea that you are 100% believe in. But what we need to see is the plan. We need to see what that kind of roadmap over the next kind of couple of years looks like. And it doesn't need to be like a business plan. Okay. So just my advice would be, work with somebody. They don't need to know what you mean, but tell that story of what the next kind of 12, 18 months looks like. And when you put that in the questions on the application form, the questions will prompt you for a little bit more detail around that. But that's the story you basically want to put in there, the vision.
I love that answer. Think about the future. That's great. Is Callaghan Innovation Funding aimed at larger organizations, or do sole traders with ideas have an opportunity?
Yeah, 100%. There is we are size agnostic. We put it bluntly, don't give a crap about basically whether you're a crazy person in a shed who literally will change the world, or whether you're a giant organization with all the resources in the world that's got an idea that will change the world. That doesn't matter. It's basically the idea or the process that you have and how you're going to basically be successful in that. And yes, sure, some of the bigger companies have a leg up because they basically have they've got some of that in play. But trust me, they also write ridiculously bad application forms just as much as that sole trader does as well. So don't let that be a narrative you tell yourself to stop. But I will say, collaborate with people to actually bring that alive, to actually understand, to bring that view. Because sometimes as a one-man band, a one-person band, it's a very lonely journey, right? And the passion can override everything. So get those different views in there, bring that customer story alive in there. But yeah, to be blunt about the question, no, there is no bias in this.
And to your point, as you've said over and over throughout this presentation, is we can't do this in a bubble. So really reaching out to other people, I think those, especially sole traders, those of us who are sole traders who know that we try to create a business in a bubble, it isn't going to work. Like really reach out to people. So that's such a good point. Is there a requirement, obligation to launch the product or solution? Is there an obligation to that?
At the Out of Here Trailblazer grant, that focus is in that kind of chart that I showed you. If I go back to that, when you're in that top right piece there, then that obligation is a lot stronger, or the evidence to prove that it is there. We acknowledge that some things are just, we know we are going to fund things that are going to fail and not basically achieve. That's just the nature of this. This isn't about only backing, surefire things, but we need to have a responsibility to the funding, the taxpayer funding, to ensure that we kind of have, we do so in a thorough way. But in that top right piece, then yes, the details get higher, but in the bottom piece there, as on the left rather, that new to R&D, no. There's very little focus on your commercial viability. We want to make sure that you're in the ballpark, to kind of nick a phrase from George's homeland. We're not completely in fantasy land, but we are often challenged as well sometimes that some of the some stuff that comes across our desk is so far out there that we kind of go, this is just too much, and that's when we pause. And that's when we use the resources around us and the expertise around us, and we turn around and we kind of go, is this really crazy? Or is this something? Because we're in the business of really crazy at the end of the day. We're in the business of innovation. So sometimes, we have to challenge ourselves and kind of go, is this actually there? Is the time machine DeLorean actually feasible?
I mean, I have to say, like, the rest of the world looks to New Zealand for innovation. It really, really does. And I know as a small country, we think that maybe, these crazy ideas aren't going to work. But I love that, Spencer. I love that you're looking at crazy ideas, taking a pause and going, the DeLorean, here it is. Here's the future. Is there any templates for the grant funding to help business start the process of writing the ideas on paper?
Thank you. Awesome question. It gives me that other reason to basically reference the website. Yes, each of these grants, when you go to the website and you go under products and funding, pretty much down at the bottom of each of the pages for New to R&D and each of these grants, you will see something called a resource hub. And in that resource hub is basically all the detail, all the attachments, all the criteria, and the application forms. That allows you to then literally download them, look at them, and start going through that process yourself to kind of go, hey, where am I strong? Where am I weak? Where do I need to do some work? Am I close enough that I really want to kind of, ring up Callaghan, and work with one of my fund and engagement team guys who will help you through some of this process. For the Trailblazer grant, because it's contestable, we can't, but we can help you with the evidence grant. But certainly, especially for that new to R&D, we're here to help you succeed.
Beautiful. I'm hesitating. This is more of a comment than it is a question. But I'm going to put it out there, Spencer, because I'm putting you on the spot.
Now I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous.
Application is a nightmare. I used ChatGPT. What say you, Spencer Willis?
What say me? We know.
We know.
We
We
know.
know.
We know. It's last year looking at applications that were used by ChatGPT was an easy game. They really jumped out. The use of language, sentence structure, and superlatives was just so obvious. And unfortunately, quite a lot of the time, it didn't actually tell the story. It just made a simple thing really long-winded and kind of, as I say, overused superlatives. This year, it's got a little smarter, but it's still very easy to spot. For me, I have no problem with people using ChatGPT to try and get a heads up on it. And I mean, I even say it to my 15-year-old, use the tool to figure out what good looks like and then manipulate it to your own way. Okay, so the hardest thing is getting a blank piece of paper and starting fresh. So use it for that, okay? But don't rely on it to write it for you, because it
100%.
will be spotted and it will lack the magic that is your innovation. I'm telling you.
we talk about that over and over when we talk about using AI. Use it as a blueprint and then infuse it with your passion, infuse it with your soul, because it's soulless. It actually is. GPT is great. Give me that blueprint, give me an outline, fantastic. And then when you put yourself into it is when you're really going to shine. Thank you, Spencer. Like, thanks for nailing that and for like hitting it home. We say it all the time. I think we have a few minutes, but I'm not going to hang out if no one's got questions. I really want to thank you for this. This is fantastic. I love how thorough everything was. I hope everyone got their questions answered. And if not, you can reach out to Callaghan Innovation. Spencer, are we reaching out to you directly, or is there a general place where people can ask questions? I'm
Go
guessing.
via the website. We do have a process because that makes sure that basically I don't become a bottleneck and the pain. So basically, you go via the website. You get to speak to one of our navigators who will go through the simple criteria with you. Again, that's part of the fail fast process. And then basically, then you get put through to one of my funding crew. But yeah, please go through the website. If that doesn't answer any questions, hook up to one of our navigators, and they will, help you through the process and get you everything you need, hopefully.
This is fantastic. I hope everyone feels that you've got the information that you need. Again, if you didn't, reach out. You can also reach out to us at support@digitalboost.co.nz, and we can help you get through that navigation if it's a little complicated for you. Thanks, Spencer. Thank you, Michael, behind the scenes.
Pleasure.
Lovely
Thank
having
you.
you. Loving spending my morning with you and having my morning coffee with you, and all of you who came and showed up live. I appreciate you. I love that you're coming here. You're passionate about your businesses and you want to learn more. And here it is. Here's funding to help you. I am going to release you all into the world. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you for the next one. Thank you, Robin. Thanks, everybody. Matewa.
Ka kite.